Welcome back, everybody. So, I wanted to do a fun deck today. It's a deck that I think has some sneaky potential. I've talked about it a couple times on the channel, and actually combing through the set championship information, somebody took a much more budget version of this deck and won herself an Ursula. You can see the thumbnail already. You know we are talking about Emerald Ruby. These two color combinations can actually pair up into a pretty aggressive deck that has a lot of answers for the formats in the form of Brawl and a lot of your Ruby cards. So I just kind of sat down and I was like, if I were to play this deck, what would it look like? How would I build it? What would I want to do? And again, this version is going to come in a bit more pricey, but at the same time, that's just kind of how it goes sometimes. You can go on Ink Decks, and there is that, I forget which event it was. If I can find it quickly, I will link it down below. I apologize if I forget to do that between recording, editing, uploading, and doing the spreadsheet information. But if I come across it, I will link her deck list also down in the description below. So without further ado, this version does come in at $345, so it essentially costs like a meta deck, and we play 16 uninkable cards. We see our cost curve is basically 5 at the top, but we do have some 6s and 7s. We're playing Ruby. I think you can guess what cards those are. So essentially anti-meta aggro. On turn 1 and 2, you want to come out very aggressive, and we do that in the form of Curse Merfolk, Flynn Rider, and Flynn Rider. It's a Flynn party up in here. So why does the deck work? If you're on the play and you come out with like Merfolk Flynn, you apply so much pressure to your opponent to be able to deal with them. Not only that, they need to use their brawls, their Storm Rage on, things like that, or they're going to be discarding cards to challenge them, which means they're not using those cards on things like your Frenemy, like your Diablo, which are also very big threats that your opponent can't just disregard. So you have a lot of early threats that force your opponent to have these responsive cards, or they're going to fall behind very quickly. So you have Merfolk and Flynn Rider Charming Rogue as your 1 and 2 drop very aggro cards. I personally love having the Pegasus shift line in here, because if you can go like Merfolk 1, Pegasus or Flynn 2, then on 3 do something like Pegasus plus Frenemy even, and turn 4 shift Pegasus, or at any point after turn 4, because even at turn 4 you can go Little Pegasus, shift Pegasus, and giving your Merfolk, your Flynns all evasive feels like you're cheating. It just feels so good, and you can get a ton of lore because everything can just quest freely, knowing your opponent has to use some type of removal to get rid of them for the most part, unless they have their own evasive characters. So I do really like the Pegasus playline in the deck. But yeah, so Curse Merfolk, Flynn Rider, Charming Rogue is your 1-2 combo that against Ruby Amethyst, it's pretty solid. Against Sisu, it's very strong. Versus Blue Steel, it's pretty strong, but they can answer it a lot better than Sisu can. Then we also have Ursula Deceiver still to hit those one jump aheads, the How Far I'll Go, the Friends on the Other Side, or the plethora of Steel Songs in the meta, especially because like Grab Your Swords is going to do wonders against this deck. So Steel Song is going to be a huge counter to you if it's popular in your local meta. This probably isn't the deck I would play, but if it's Bucky, if it's Sisu, if it's Ruby Amethyst, like most, I think this deck has a chance to be sneaky and win. I'm not saying your Bucky matchup is going to be great. I'm saying if you win the die roll and you get on the play, you can just aggro out quick and put a lot of low characters on board early. If you just dump your hand onto the board and go wide, they're not really equipped to be challenging. And if you can keep a Grab Your Swords or win before Tinkerbell, you're in a very, very strong spot. Flynn Rider Frenemy. So playing this card in here too. So if you don't have your Charming Rogue on 2 and you drop a Frenemy on 2, especially versus Sisu, it's almost better because for the next few turns you're going to be getting the 3 lore. And I don't know if I would quest with him because Queen of Hearts has been starting to see some play as a 2-2 rush. But dropping your Frenemy and just being able to start gaining the 3 lore each turn for having the highest strength character is just going to further put you ahead in the game. For Diablos, it's another huge threat, it's another huge target, it's evasive, and it is your draw engine. The Embodied Warrior, yeah, there's not a whole lot else to say. She quests for 2, she has 4 willpower, and gains strength based on your opponent's hands. Pairs up nicely with everything we're doing. It's a 3-cost multi-quester, and she also gains you a lot of value out of your frenemy. Tinkerbell, most helpful, evasive, 2/3, takes out Diablo, quest for 2, and when you play her, you can give something else evasive. So say when you play her, especially if it's after a Maui, you can give your Maui evasive. If it's after a Goofy, give your Goofy evasive. If it's a Sisu, you give your Sisu evasive. And then these characters can take out your opponent's Diablos. 4 Goofies because we're going aggro, but let's say you get to that point where you just stall out towards the end, right? It's really nice to be able to drop a rush character who gets you 2 lore just for challenging. That could be the difference between winning or losing the game. We kind of talked about Shift Pegasus, and then we're playing Ruby, so Maui and Medusa are just too good not to be playing them. We are also playing 4 Brawls because, well, if you're playing Ruby, you should play 4 Brawl unless you're on Mufasa. Even if you're on Mufasa, you should strongly debate playing 4 Brawls. That's how good this card is. We do play 7 songs as well in the form of 3 Be Kings, 2 Brunos, and 2 Be Prepareds, just for that late game reset button. Ideally, you don't go there, and if you don't want to play the Be Prepareds, I get it. I think it's fine. Be King, again, if you don't want to play it, that's fine. I'm prioritizing turns 1 through 3 mostly as the really aggressive turns, and then as you get into that 4 to 7 range, you can start to play more of a control-y game if you need to. I would still try to go aggro and finish the game out, but if you have to, you do have control-y options. And then also Fang. So I started playing this card, and it actually has been working out really well. If you drop it on 4, or if you drop it on 6, and you can move a character there right away, giving your character ward is so good. So you drop this on 4 against like Sisu, right? They're at 5 ink if they got their 1 jump earlier, maybe 6, but so their Medusa is going to be coming down. But if they don't get it yet and they go to 5, or if they go to 6, they have to Medusa that turn, right? Or Ice Block that turn, or Brawl that turn. Because next turn, your Diablo, your Flynn, your Merfolk, your Sisu, your Tinkerbell, your anything. Next turn, you move them to Fang, and all of a sudden, their Brawls don't matter anymore. Their Medusas don't matter anymore. Their Ice Blocks don't matter anymore. You just take out so many of their threats, and you put them on pretty much have Be Prepared, or you just don't care. Lady Tremaine and Be King Undisputed, however, making you choose, but at least then you get the choice, so you can just pick a character that isn't at Fang. So I think Fang is a super underrated card right now, and personally, I would keep an eye out on it. I would not be surprised to see some decks picking it up and playing it a bit more, just because I think the Ruby decks are figuring Bucky out. I think the Ruby decks are figuring Emerald in general out, how to best play against it. And what we once saw as Bucky's just crazy good versus Sisu and really good versus Ruby Amethyst, I think both of those matchups are a lot closer than most people realize at this point. And I think the information agrees with that, and it shows it too. For that reason, I do think we're going to start to see Bucky decks go through an adaptation to better set themselves up against the Ruby matchup, because I don't think Hidden Cove is the answer, and it's kind of just proving that, because on one hand, Bucky's performing, it's the best deck, but on the other hand, it's also performing less than it was still, and that gap between first, second, third is getting smaller and smaller. It's going to be a lot of fun. I really like this format, and I think this is a strong rogue contender if you're looking for something that you can pick up. Again, I'll try and get that other deck list down below for a budget-friendly version. I'm not saying you're going to be able to just take it and go get an Ursula like she did. Sometimes it's your day, and you're feeling it, and it just goes good. You hit the cards you need, and that's all it takes. Anything can happen on any given day with any given deck. You hit your matchups. You have some good luck. Your opponent draws bad, or you just play out of your mind. Like, you think of play lines you never thought of before. Sometimes it's your day and nobody is going to stop you. So this is one of those decks. Try it out if you want. But yeah, thanks for watching, guys. Let me know, what do you think about this deck? What other spicy decks have you guys thought about? What other spicy decks have you seen at your set championships? I'm working on putting a list together where I'm going to show off the 5 spiciest set or Ursula winning deck lists so far that I can find, and maybe we'll do that weekly, just like the 5 craziest decks of week 1, 2, 3, 4, etc., etc. But don't be afraid, I guess, is the message behind this video, to try something different, to go out on an edge, to experiment, because we might not have Pixelborn, but you can still get creative and you can still do really good into any format. Thank you guys for watching, and until next time, take care.